All right, joining us now to talk about the wildfire situation in California, Mark-Neveau, former FEMA presidential appointee. Mark, appreciate your time today. As it stands now, we have about 10,000 firefighters from the state, the local and the federal agencies all battling fires in California. But we're still here weeks away from really the peak of the fire season. Already we have these major fires burning in California. Where do we turn as a state for more crews, for more resources, once we get more fires starting here in the coming weeks?
Yeah, Alex, that's a great question, because we're seeing unprecedented. As much as that sounds strange, given what happened last year, this year already, and we're not at peak fire season, has made it extremely challenging to get resources. Over 10,000 firefighters battling 12 fires at about 1.2 million acres. We burnt 2 million acres last year. So you can see the pace, but what's happening is because of drought, dry fuels, weather conditions, these fires are exploding. And so where we're at now is we're reaching to other states, other countries, anywhere to get firefighters. And that's becoming a problem. For instance, in Canada, they've got wildfires going on. We typically reach to them for help, or even Mexico, but Mexico's up in Canada helping them. So we've got great challenges, and that's changed the strategy that they're using to fight these fires.
Okay,
Alex?
so Mark, let's talk a little bit about that strategy. We saw yesterday when this fire broke out up in Lake County, they actually moved some of the resources from other nearby fires to really get a jump on this blaze. Are we going to see more of that happening in the future?
What we're seeing are two things that are unprecedented. First one being evacuations. Now that sounds standard, right, for wildfires, but what they're saying is we're being much more proactive with sheriffs, CHP, law enforcement officers to move people out of areas that we think just might get involved. They're not taking a chance. They're not waiting. They're asking those people to leave. Much more aggressive out front. They have not done that before. That's number one. Number two, what they're doing is shifting resources off existing fires, mainly hand crews and air operations, to get to what they call initial attack fires. Meaning, if there's small fires that are starting while these big ones are burning, let's pull some crews and aircraft, get to those small fires, keep them small so this doesn't compound. So far, they've been successful with that strategy 98% of the time. But this is much different than we've dealt with before.
Yeah, it's sort of like having to triage the different fires and figure out which ones are the most serious and move resources accordingly. Let me ask you about the firefighters who are on the front lines. 10,000 firefighters, as we mentioned here, and they're working, let's say 14-hour days, 16-hour days here, and they're working day in and day out with very few days off here. How much does the fatigue factor sort of come into play, and how much will that play a role here in getting a handle on wildfires here throughout the rest of this season?
Yeah, astute, Alex. It's going to be huge in this case, and here's why. CAL FIRE is the largest fire department in the country, but they rely upon local firefighters too to come out and help to protect structures, to do backfire and all types of things. So it's not just CAL FIRE that's being tapped, it's resources up and down the state of California from municipal fire departments. Now, we've been at this for 2, 3, 4 years. Now we're at red flag season. We've tapped out of firefighters. We're asking them to do more. They're having to bunk down on their day off in base camp that's still surrounded by smoke, breathing smoke, not getting adequate sleep, trying the best they can. But the duration of time, it's really kind of remarkable that we haven't had real serious injuries. We've had some burnovers, but for the most part, there's been no loss of life, which is incredible given the stress and trauma these folks are facing.
Yeah, Mark, we're just about out of time, but really the numbers are sobering. In 2018, which was a record when we got to this point, 1.8 million acres burned. Here we are, 2021, already so far this year, 1.3 million acres. And as you mentioned, we are not even in the peak of fire season. I mean, what does that tell you about what we can anticipate here in California?
Well, not only that, but most of the fires that are burning now have little containment. So these fires are going to continue to burn for a while. We have got the greatest challenge, in my opinion, that we've ever faced in terms of wildfire scenarios in California, bar none.
All right, former FEMA presidential appointee mark-neveau talking about the upcoming fire season and the season that's already well underway, of course, here in California. Mark, always appreciate your insight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening, both of you.